tonight. First thing on our agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you. I need a motion to approve the regular agenda, please.
I'd like to pull an item from the regular, or add an item from the agenda.
What would you like to add?
I'd like to add staff meeting policy and procedures.
Okay. Can you tell me whether or not, and let me go ahead and continue with Mr. Lanoux. You did have a second. Loren gave him a second real quick there. Why would you like to talk about staff meetings for probably the 6th or 7th time since you've been on the council in 2 years?
Why would I like, because
Yes.
we don't have a written policy stating who's allowed to come.
Okay.
We don't have summaries of what is spoken. We don't have any idea the cost of them. We don't know as council members where they're even held. Are you allowed to go to staff meeting?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't go to staff meetings even if I was allowed. That's why they're called staff meetings. They're not
That's
called
right.
mayor meetings.
So our staff is simply, but we don't have, our staff meeting has to be directed by somebody. There should be an agenda, there should be a summary of what's spoken at a staff meeting, and that should be forwarded after the staff meeting to the council people to understand what just happened at that staff meeting.
Okay.
So I think we should be talking about staff meetings.
Okay.
How often? What are the costs of the cities? We didn't have them for over a year and a half. I don't think anybody even noticed that we weren't having them. Beneficial or non-beneficial, either way, I don't think it made much
Okay,
difference.
well, let's start answering some of these questions. Let's stop you there. You've made a good case as to why you want to talk about staff meetings. So let's answer some of this stuff. We've talked about
Agenda
that.
for discussion, we can put it under new business.
Yep, we're going to discuss it first, and then the council's going to decide whether or not to do that, Larry. First thing is, the staff meetings are held after our regular meetings so that the staff can meet to implement what we just discussed and the votes that we took to implement the city's business as directed by us, the council. That, to my knowledge, has always been the, as well as additional planning for things coming forward, has always been the reason for the staff meetings. The fact that the council who set the policy are not at the staff meetings has really never been a problem, I don't think, for the majority of the council. It's always kind of been a problem for you, as you brought this up multiple times. It's never really been a problem for the majority of the council, because when I hire the best people I can and get them in here and let them have a staff meeting, I do trust them to implement what we have voted on to get this done, and I think the results speak for themselves. I think they've done a very good job on a very, very small budget. And micromanaging our staff, I just don't think is helpful, and certainly I wouldn't want you micromanaging our staff. Mr. Carr, go ahead, please.
Mr. Mayor, I respectfully would request that when Mr. Lanoux brings up topics that he's brought up many, many times, and it's not on the agenda,
Yeah.
and he pulls it from the agenda, and we start talking about it, he essentially got it on the agenda.
Yeah.
So I would respectfully say that next time he brings up something like that, rather than go through and even try to explain or talk about it, I think we just take a vote and move on.
Actually,
Rather
if I may here,
rather than
Yes,
do that
before-
and indulge him and basically get what he wants. So I would just, I'd make, he's got a motion on the floor, so I'll,
Let's go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor of adding staff meetings onto the regular agenda, please say
now
aye.
it's open for discussion. We have a vote, now it's open
Had
for
discussion.
discussion. No, I'm not done with
You
discussion.
gave us your reasons.
You
I'm
gave
not
a
going to
reason.
allow you to
Okay, I'm going to tell the
grandstand
citizens
up
of
here for
Grant,
15 minutes.
this was asked to be put
Okay.
on there
I'm gonna go ahead and
over
call
a
it. We're
week
gonna vote
ago,
over the
so
top
this
of
is
it.
not just
All those
adding
in
it
favor
late.
say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, the motion was wrong. Got me going. Try that again. Kevin, I'm too busy yelling at Larry over here, yelling over the top of Larry. Can I restate that motion, or can that motion be restated, or how do we handle that? Because it was incorrect.
Yeah, you can restate the motion.
Okay.
Would it already passed?
They just voted and passed it, put it on the agenda. Getting fun, isn't it?
Well, fine, it's on the agenda.
Okay, we'll throw it on the agenda, and we'll talk about it. What we'll do is we'll talk about it for about 10 seconds, and then go from there. Under new business. My bad. Okay. Sorry about that. New business, we'll put it under C, staff meetings. Larry?
Yep.
Tom Carr's idea that the next time you bring something up, just to let you know and to let everyone else here know, the next time you bring something up you've talked about 15 times, there'll be a vote, and then we'll be done. You just got this one done, and that's the last time. So revel in this glory, okay?
Well, I'm not reveling in anything,
Now,
Mr. Mayor, I'm
I
trying
need
to
an
make a
approval.
point.
I need a motion to approve the regular agenda, please.
as amended,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There you go. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. please.
Motion to remove items from the consent agenda.
Second?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to pull 2 items. Item C, dust control, and the Stillwater fire contract.
Great. And have you talked to the clerk about these or presented anything in terms of supporting documents to the clerk?
I have supporting document. We'll just pull them. They're on the consent agenda. It takes.
I'll ask the question again. You know the procedure, you know the policy. Have
Yep,
you or
I
have you
sent
not
items
sent it to the
our
clerk?
city clerk and asked her to forward documents back and forth, and she doesn't respond. So it does no good. I asked her for the stuff on the EAW. I asked her for all the
That has
comments
nothing
that
to
were
do with
made.
this. I'm asking about C and D right now, please. C and D.
Nope, C&D, I just came across, I had a very good discussion with the Stillwater Fire Department. I think the fire department is too important to be put on a consent agenda without any discussion.
Okay, well,
And
that's
so I would like to
your
have that
opinion.
pulled and put on there.
You're all done now. Kim,
No,
have
I'm
you
not
heard
all
about this?
done. I would
You-
like to
you're all
have those
done.
2
You don't have the
items
floor
pulled from
anymore.
the
Your-
consent
Your floor
agenda.
time is done. Thank you very much. Kim, can you answer the question? Have you gotten any supporting documents on these 2? Has there been any concern?
They're 2
since we
quick
got this
items, they
out?
can be discussed
You haven't heard
openly.
anything? Great, let's just go ahead and vote on the motion on the floor. Can you restate your motion, please?
Yeah, I would like a motion to pull item C, dust control, so the citizens of Grant understand who's eligible for dust
Okay,
control.
and the rest of it
And
was
the
what?
other one is
D.
Stillwater Fire Department,
Great.
because their rating is a ISO rating of 4.
Great.
It
A
will
contract
save the-
that's been
It will
handled for
save the
years.
citizens of Grant.
All those in favor of pulling
On their
these and adding
taxes.
them, please go ahead and say aye.
Aye.
Great. Those opposed? No.
No.
No. Thank you. Can I get
Kenny, you're
approved?
not interested in the
Can I
fire
get a motion
department,
to
or you
approve the
just here to
consent
second
agenda, please?
everything?
We need to keep moving on, Larry.
Yeah, you don't think the
I'll
fire
make a
department's
motion to
very
approve
important?
The consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Great. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Noes?
No.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Staff agenda items. City Engineer Brad Reefstick. You have got some stuff to talk to us about tonight.
Mayor, members of the council, tonight I have before you a new 3-year contract with Brockman Blacktopping Company. As most of you know, they've been doing our pothole filling and patching for the last 3 years. And they've done a really nice job. They've actually done a couple of our other special roads projects, specifically Keats Avenue. I've listed the new hourly rates that Brockman had proposed. These rates are very similar to the same rates that we had 3 years ago. So I guess it would be my recommendation that we award a contract to Brockman for the next 3-year contract for pothole patching. And
Mr. Carr.
How similar are they, Brad?
so,
I don't have that contract available
yeah,
to me.
so I guess the biggest, largest hourly rate is in the labor, and
Okay.
that went up $3.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
I think the 3-year contract before that was at $54 an hour. Otherwise, everything else is within $1 or less of what they were before.
Okay.
So it's very, very competitive.
And raw material in this contract, it sounds like you're describing it as a pass-through cost for the bituminous plant. Is that still?
That's true. The bituminous costs kind of go up and down with the market, and so he'll pass on the cost to us, and we'll review them and to make sure that they're in line with market costs and go from there, so.
Okay. Yeah, we first started using, I believe we first started using Brockman when Steve was on the council, if I'm not mistaken. Was when we-
I know the contract before this was in 2014.
Yeah, so I remember Steve kind of sold Brockman to us, and I think they've done a pretty good job up to this point. I certainly have no issues with them.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
Open for discussion.
Well, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, now go ahead, Larry.
All right, Brad, last month, I don't know if you were at the last city council meeting.
That's right. You weren't.
I wasn't. And by God, it wasn't taped for the citizens either, you know.
I wasn't here either. Larry.
You weren't there, and it was just kind of snuck in, and we passed an ordinance. And I want to know how this contract falls in place with the ordinance you passed last month. An ordinance amending grant Code of Ordinance amending Chapter 28, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places. And it says, the findings and purpose of the intent, to provide health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, to ensure the integrity of its streets and the appropriate use right-of-way. The city strives to keep its right-of-way in good repair and free from unnecessary encumbrances. Well,
Now that you've heard that, Brad, I want you to relate what he just asked you to,
Yep.
to the Brockman contract, and that's it.
yep, and so what I'm gonna say is, in this contract, is it that we're trying to keep it health, safety, and welfare? Because aren't we better off probably replacing streets, putting in a road program that starts doing a comprehensive road replacement? I just went by McCusick Road yesterday. They're out there potholing and patching that road already again. And I will guarantee you, they'll be patching it and potholing it 3 times like they did last year. All of our roads, we keep potholing and patching it. Now, the ordinance they just passed last month talks about the health, safety, and welfare. I don't think that's a health, safety, and a welfare issue when we keep on kicking the can down the road and people are starting to drive down the middle of the road to avoid these potholes and patches.
My
It's time we
turn.
put together a
Yeah,
comprehensive
my
road
turn,
plan.
Larry. And Larry knows very well that we don't get gas tax money, as everyone here also knows. Every city over
I didn't see you
5,000,
lobbying.
hang on a second, Larry. Every city over 5,000 population, every time every one of you goes in to fill your gas tank, you pay about 28.6 cents per gallon. We get 0 back. We are on our own. The only way we take care of 70 miles of roads is through your property taxes. That's it. And if you look at 70 miles times 5,280, that's a lot of frontage, and it's both sides, of course. Now, we're doing that completely and totally on property taxes. If the state legislature goes ahead and passes these new aid packages that they're talking about, where cities under 5,000 start to get some of this money, this would be a very appropriate discussion to have. We don't have the money. There's no money tree out in back of the city hall. Larry knows this. He likes to make it an issue, but we can't afford it. It's just very simply the dollars are not there to do it. I remember our last road commissioner tried to do a 13% tax increase, had people in here for the roads, and I applaud his efforts. He tried. He had people in here, and they about had, a heart attack. They did not want that to happen. They made the choice to live in Grant, knowing that these roads are never going to be perfect. I was in Maplewood today. My gosh, my car was bouncing all over the road, and this is a town with hundreds of thousands of people and a massive commercial district, and they can't afford to keep their roads perfectly. We had our county commissioner, Fran Myron, up here 2 meetings ago. He told Mr. Lanoux straight from the microphone, you can't tax people out of their homes to do this, and we can't tax people out of their homes. So we're doing the best we can on this. Brad, I don't see how those two fit together. I'm not going to ask you to make a legal recommendation on that. So if you could just discuss Brockman real quick and whether or not you think this is a good contract, that'd be a great place to start. Larry, thanks for your opinions, but they're really not applicable at this point. You missed the meeting. It's too bad.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to reiterate that the hourly rates that are listed here are very competitive, and like I said, Brockman has done a really good job for the city of Grant, and I would highly recommend that we authorize a new 3-year contract.
Fantastic. Motion and second on the floor. All those,
Open for
no, it's too
discussion.
late
It's still
now.
open for
Too
discussion.
late. All those in favor of
Can
approving
I
the
talk or
contract,
not?
say aye. Aye. No? No.
I didn't say no.
I said if it's no, say no. You said aye. What did Loren say?
I was still waiting to have a
He's still
discussion.
waiting to have a discussion.
We're moving on,
This
gentlemen.
is how this is done, folks.
It's done this way because you cannot stay on track and get the city's business done, Larry. That's why it's
Actually,
done
we
this
are
way,
getting
because
the
you
city
cannot stay on track. You
No,
can't even
I'm
show up
out
to
here for the
meetings.
minority voice, Jeff. You
neither
don't
one of
wanna
you
hear
can-
it?
Your minority
You don't wanna
voice
hear
should have
the
been in our
minority
last
voice?
meeting. Okay, let's move on.
Why, so we can pass
City
more
planner.
ordinances for sidewalks?
Council members, who voted which way, please?
Yeah, Larry, us four voted aye. Lauren apparently didn't vote. Abstained. Jennifer, you're up next. EAW update.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to provide a verbal update in terms of where we're at with respect to the EAW and the proposed ice rink. As you all know, we had a 30-day comment period that was closed at the beginning of March. When that closure happened, essentially, it was Bay West who took the comments that were received, excuse me, from the different agencies, members of the public, and it was their job to take those and prepare a package that's called a response to comments package, essentially. So Bay West has done that and prepared a draft of it. The preliminary recommendation of Bay West is that an environmental impact statement be prepared. Basically, what that means is that there were several comments that were received from different agencies that warrant further study. So initially, we thought that we would have it on the agenda this evening, requesting that decision be made. But we did receive a request by the applicant to hold off and delay the decision for approximately a month. Their environmental consultant was out of town, and he'd like to confer with him before the notice of decision is made. So that's the verbal update. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of where we were at with respect to the process and what the preliminary recommendation of the consultant who prepared it is.
Okay. And the applicant did, just to be sure, I want to get this out in the public record, the applicant asked for the delay, so we are not up against any timelines. Is that correct?
That is correct. The applicant requested in writing a delay for 30 days so that they could confer with their environmental consultant.
Great.
And I think what we're looking for is a motion to table, right?
I'm not sure that we need a formal motion. That might be a question for Kevin. I'm not sure because we're not actually taking action.
There's nothing
So
to do.
I don't
Yeah,
think that it's
there's-
necessary.
Because staff has taken it off the council's agenda for tonight, and at the applicant's request, there's no pending potential action, so I don't think
Right.
it needs to be formally tabled.
Okay, thank you. Larry? Oh,
Question.
Mr. Carr,
Is-
go ahead.
is the
Then Larry, you're
applicant
next.
here?
No, Mr. Mayor, to
Okay.
my knowledge, she's not.
Okay, then I request that we don't talk about it with the applicant, anymore about the topic without the applicant here. I don't think that's
I
right.
think that's real good advice. We don't want to prejudice the activity moving forward. And Larry, if you're going to talk about the applicant or the site or anything else, I would ask you to hold off from that and wait till the applicant's actually in the building. But I'll go ahead and call on you here, and please remember that.
Hey, Jennifer, I made a request to our city administrator to forward all comments from that public hearing, so we, as a councilman, I can review the comments that were made pertaining to the site. I haven't received it. So I was at that public hearing. Mr. Heelerner made the comment that he thought it was very disruptive. I found it very informative. So I don't know what he was evidently at a different meeting than I was at.
Can we have her answer your question
Yeah,
first on the comments?
I'm gonna ask you, it was said that the question should be forwarded to our city administrator, and that our staff would review all comments and figure out which ones they felt were worthy to forward on to the Bay West. My question to you is, did you discuss this during a staff meeting, the questions that were referred, or did you simply refer all documentation and questions to Bay West for review?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to start with your first question, and then I'll continue forward. The first being, item of clarification, there was not a public hearing held for the
It's
open.
an open house.
It is an open house. They are two very different things, and I want to make sure that that's on the record. The open house is actually voluntary with respect to an EAW. It was voluntarily held by the consultant, Bay West, who was preparing the document. So for the record, I'd like that clarification to be made. Secondly, the comments were requested to be forwarded to the administrator because it is a formal public comment period, and it is in compliance with the environmental assessment worksheet rules, which are mandated through the state statutes. So the public comments that were forwarded get passed through the city and directly to Bay West, who is the consultant who is preparing the document. Bay West then prepares what's called a formal response to comments. That is the draft that I just referenced for you, Councilmember Lanoux, that they are preparing and have prepared and have preliminarily determined that an EIS would be warranted. Based on that package, once it is finalized, it will be submitted back to all commenters who provided comment to the administrator. So that will include any member of the public who provided comments, which I believe, Mr. Lanoux, you did. So you will receive a formal package when the final package is prepared, as everybody else will, including the MPCA, the Metropolitan Council, the Minnesota Department of Health, and anybody else who provided comment through that formal process will receive the formal response to comment package back. That document has not been finalized.
Jennifer, my question was to you. Did you forward to Bay West all comments that were, or did you sort
Mr.
through
Mayor,
them?
members of the council, I did not receive any
Didn't
comments
listen.
to me. They
Not to,
all,
okay, to the city clerk, let's go, not directly to you.
There you go.
They were directed to our city for comment. Did you forward all comments to Bay West, or did you pick
Mr.
and
Mayor,
choose?
members of the council,
No,
I
no,
have
just
answered the
hang on.
question, and the question that you asked
Simple,
is.
did you
Just give me a yes
Why?
or no.
Did not provide anything.
Yeah, ask
The
the
city
clerk the
administrator provided the comments
Help
to Bay West. Bay West.
all forwarded, it was my simple question, were they all forwarded to Bay West?
Mr. Lanoux, that was not your question, and they all were.
That is my question right
they
now,
were
were all of them were
forwarded.
forwarded to Bay West for
That
comment?
is correct.
Okay, great. You're all done. Mr. Carr, go ahead.
Yeah, this again, this is totally irrelevant, and I don't know
It's
why we're.
relevant,
no,
city
it's-
business.
No, it's not city
You
business.
don't
About putting the school in a
It's
dump.
no, the school's not even here, so I suggest we move on, Mr. Mayor, please.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
we can move on, but it is not, it is not relevant, Mr. Lanoux, because once again, you don't even understand the process. You're up here to say things you don't even understand. So as Mr. Carr.
I do
As
understand.
Mr. Carr, well,
I
you
didn't
actually,
see
you
that.
actually don't, Larry. You like to pretend you do, but you don't. So
Okay,
we're gonna
let's
move
move
past you and ask our city attorney, Mr. Sandstrom, or no, he has no action items. We're gonna go right by him. We're gonna go right in.
Mr. Kevin Sandstrom.
No, he has no
a
action
comment?
items.
I-
You can,
It's
you
not,
can
it's
send
for
him an email.
discussion, for
You can send him an
clarification, point of
email.
information,
Nope.
like a
No,
point of information.
no, send him an
Point
email.
of information.
Send him an email. We're gonna go right into new business. March 6, 2017, city council meeting minutes. You two gentlemen are going to abstain, of course.
A motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And 2 abstentions on A. And B, consideration of resolution number 2017-07, resolution supporting local decision-making authority.
I'll make a motion to approve for discussion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Let me start on this by saying the league has given us a resolution supporting local cities and their power to regulate, for all intents and purposes, local activities. The league, or not the league, but the legislature and some very powerful financial and telecommunication interests have recently been trying to push the legislature into removing local cities' authority to regulate their right-of-way, their ROW, okay? Right now, when we have telecommunication providers going through our right-of-way, telephone poles, hanging cable, that type of thing, the city actually, through a licensing authority, receives dollars for those right-of-way uses. And that makes sense because we have responsibilities with those right-of-ways. We have to make sure that they're not being damaged. We have to keep them mowed. We have to do all the things with the right-of-way that cost us money, so we should have something back from them. In this case, with the telecommunication companies that I'm talking about, the legislature, they're trying to push this legislation through where we lose all control over those right-of-ways, and that's wrong. The League of Minnesota Cities has provided us a sample resolution basically letting the legislature know that, hey, wait a second, we are not giving up any of our local authority, and this authority is very important to local cities, whether it be Grant or any other of the smaller local cities in the state of Minnesota. So I, for one, am going to vote very positively for this resolution, maintaining local city control over our right-of-way. Mr. Carr.
Has staff had a chance to look over the resolution? Anybody? No issues? Sample resolution? Okay, thank you.
I have a first. Denny, did you give us a second on this resolution? I'm going to go ahead and call this resolution for support. All those in favor of this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. Any noes? All right, very good. Let's move forward on to my mistake here. Larry, you got staff meetings on the regular agenda. Mr. Carr, we're going to let you comment first, and then we're going to go right to Mr.
Are you gonna go into unfinished business, or are you gonna follow the agenda?
For many years.
You have unfinished
For
business.
many years.
Hang on, buddy.
We
Some new
had-
business here. We moved it under C.
We had different staff. We have a minimal amount of time that we can spend here at the council meetings. I think a lot of the staff would call and try to get together, voice communication, emails, whatever. And I think we talked about, what about a staff meeting? So everybody can kind of get together and you can get a lot more done. I mean, why do business people have meetings? Why don't they just do everything by phone and by fax and by email? Of course, because they can get more done when they're in a room and they can work things out and then get things done. And we found that this worked better. I'm a big supporter of it. I certainly don't want to sit in on it. I know Mr. Lanoux feels he needs to go to all the different meetings, including public meetings where he's not welcome, and that's not where he should be, because it's for the public. And then Mr. Lanoux, I don't think, has figured out that he's a council member now. He's not a regular citizen anymore. He's above that a little bit, and the residents have put him there, and he should respect that, and he should respect them. And if this is the same thing with the staff, you need to respect the staff. We hired them. If you don't like them, then we can fire them. But when we hire them, we trust them. We need to get them to get their work done. It's a very cost-effective tool. It saved us many mistakes because everybody's on the same page. And it saves the residents who are our biggest clients, and those are the people that we actually work for. And the fact that we can get our staff together and get these things resolved in the best way possible is what we should be doing. To micromanage or pick on that is ridiculous. And it's not cost effective. I think we may save a little. It may cost us more, but the residents are getting a bargain from what they do and our good staff. So I don't even want to talk about it anymore. This is over with as far as I'm concerned. And all of us sitting up here have been voted in by the residents. And it's a republic. And if we vote, it's over. And I really don't want to talk about it anymore because we've talked about it enough. So I make a motion that we leave our staff meetings alone. So it's in a motion form. It's in the minutes. And then Mr. Lanoux can stop bringing this up. So I make a motion that we leave our staff meetings alone, and I think they're a good thing for Grant. I need a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me comment on that as well. Larry, this was put on accidentally, my bad, and I knew that. You had quite a bit of time up front to discuss this. We're not going to discuss it any further. We are going to take a vote on
You
this.
made a motion and a second, now it's
Yep.
open for discussion.
And then I'm going to, no, we're not going to follow Robert's rules because
Are
we
we
never
not?
have, yes.
Are
Well,
we doing
again,
parliamentary
enough.
procedure?
I'm talking,
Now
please,
it's
sir.
open for discussion.
I'm talking, sir, if you
We
don't
can't
mind.
discuss it, you put it on the
Okay, here
agenda,
we go.
Jeff.
I'm talking, then you can have the floor. One moment. We are not going to allow you to go back through this again because we have been through this 5 or 6, 7 times. You apparently have never worked in a corporation. I understand that, that's fine, but if you've never worked in a corporation, staff meetings are a way of life. They are a way to put together the different interests within the organization so that they are working together in harmony. You going to one of these, having no experience in that type of an environment, probably would not be conducive to them getting anything done. This is the last time we are going to deal with this, and I'm going to hand you the floor, and you can complain about it, and this is the last time, so make it worth it, okay? You have the floor. Then we're going to take a vote.
Number one, as a councilman, I'm not aware where you even have a staff meeting. How long is the average staff meeting? Who's all at your staff meetings? Where have we seen any summary of what you've been asked to discuss and the summary of what you discussed after it's done? So that once you have a staff meeting and you have input, maybe if you have it a week after the city council meeting and you have a staff meeting and you discuss things in there, you could forward what you've discussed so that we can come prepared and ask for the next meeting and be prepared. We have no idea what you discussed at a staff meeting. There is no agenda. There is no summary. We don't know the cost of these meetings. We don't know who's attending, nor do we know what you're discussing.
Okay. So you're very, very curious. That's good. I'm glad that you're curious about some things. I wish you would read the calendar and know when to come to our meetings. Mr. Carr, you're up.
Mr. Lanoux gets a summary every month in his packet. It's
Every
called the
month.
staff reports.
Yep.
And those are
Yep.
the reports and the staff giving the information that they talked about at the meetings. That being said, as far as who goes and who doesn't, I don't really know and I don't care, because if the work gets done, our staff is within budget. They do a good job. Things are getting done.
You don't
That's
know and you
that's
don't
their job.
care.
It's not my job to micromanage them, Larry, and it's not your job
Not a
either.
question. I want to know.
I respectfully request you call my motion, please.
Yes, and I'm going to go ahead and call the motion. All those, what is the motion, in fact? We don't have a motion.
Yeah, motion to leave staff meetings alone.
Motion to leave staff
Basically.
meetings alone. I like that motion. Let's go ahead and call it. All those in favor of leaving them alone, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of not leaving them alone, say no.
No.
All right,
Actually,
gentlemen.
that is not a fair question, Mayor.
It's in the record
Not a
now, and
fair
I
question.
really don't want to talk
So
about
I
it.
am opposed to your motion.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Mr.
7A.
Mayor, Councilmember, I just want to add to that, the notes from staff meetings are your agenda. Future agendas, and there are no summaries, there are no minutes. Staff makes no decisions. we bring everything forward to you.
We understand that. Mr. Lanoux has been explaining this probably 15 times now. I'm not sure if he just forgot it or thought it would be a good time to bring it up since he missed the last meeting. He wanted to have some fireworks at this one. I don't know. Let's go on to 7, unfinished business. A, refund of city deposit. Mr. Lanoux, you came into the city, you left a deposit of $50 to remove a blueprint of a rather large pole barn on your property. You signed a receipt for that, I believe, or were given a receipt for that, and you left with that blueprint. You have never returned it. The city remains in possession of your $50 deposit. I'm just going to ask you a simple question. Are you going to take a copy of that blueprint and bring the original back? Yes or no? Simple.
Well, I don't think it's all
Wasn't gonna be
that
that
simple.
simple?
Let's
Okay.
go back to where this happened.
Okay.
This was about 4 or 5 days after I had a house fire. I
Okay.
asked for the blueprint.
All
I asked Kim, what is the
Blueprint of what,
percentage
sir?
of my home?
Of your home, okay? It's
So
not
that I
of your
could-
barn, it's of your home.
Of my home, I had a house fire. You were aware of it.
Yep.
So I simply asked her for a copy of the blueprint. She said, you can't have it. It's government property. I says, how many blueprints of homes do you have in Grant? Do you have 50%? No. Maybe 30? Well, maybe. Are mine that important? Because we could probably go to court and get a copy of the blueprint so I could give it to my
You have a
insurance
copy of the
adjuster.
blueprint. Are you gonna bring it back, yes or no?
I don't have the damn.
You don't have it anymore? You got rid of it? Okay, Kevin, if we hold a deposit for $50 for a blueprint that was taken from the city office, no matter whose blueprint it was, if the applicant does no longer have the blueprint to bring back to the city or to make a copy of, do we just put that $50 in the general fund, or how do we handle that?
Yes, that becomes city money.
Okay, and do we need a
I do-
motion?
no,
we need
I do
I'm
have a
asking the
question
attorney.
for Mr.
Do we-
Sandberg.
Do we make a motion to do that, or does it just go through there through the clerk's accounting efforts?
Well, the clerk has certainly been concerned about this particular issue, and so I
Right.
think the clerk would prefer a formal motion to
Okay.
put that money in the general fund.
Now it's up
Sounds
for
good.
discussion.
we haven't
Kim,
got a
can
motion
you,
yet.
I'd like a point of clarity before we go forward.
I'll make a motion to put that $50 into the general fund.
General fund, do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, now, Kim, do you have a copy of that receipt?
I most certainly do.
Can you, give me a copy of that receipt?
There you go.
Jenny, can you grab that for Larry?
Mr. Mayor and council members, just for clarification, Councilmember Lanoux did come in and request the blueprints. We do not have the capability to copy those. They are too large.
Right.
We have had other people come into the office and get things from the file where they sign a receipt, leave something, a $20 bill, whatever it may be, go make a copy and bring it back.
Okay, so that's happened quite often in your experience,
I have copies of others that have done that.
that have brought the blueprints back? Okay,
All
good.
right, Kim, I've got a
letter
copy of
was-
this receipt here, and it seems to me that the copy of the receipt says you got a receipt for $20. It looks like you scribbled over it and put a 5 on that where you asked for $20, and you wrote the receipt for $20. I give you a $50 bill, and you refused to give me change, didn't you?
No, that's not the way I recall it, Councilmember Lanoux.
Did you,
Did you write the 20 on here, or did I write the 20?
I had asked Councilmember Lanoux for
Hang
a
on a second.
$20 deposit to go make his copy, and I made a receipt out,
For $20?
hang on a second, Larry.
and I gave him the receipt. He had $50 on the counter, so I changed the receipt to 50.
To 50. You still have $50?
You
Yeah,
changed
it's
it. You
immaterial.
changed it.
Your argument
Sure
is
it is.
immaterial. She has 50. Do you want it back? Bring the blueprint back. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Are you gonna bring it back? Yes or no?
No, you're not having
Okay,
a
thanks
blueprint
very
because
much.
it's
Mr.
sitting there
Carr,
with an
go ahead.
insurance
Okay,
agent. I have no idea where it is.
Thank you, Larry.
My motion
Mr.
did-
Carr?
I don't think included an amount, did it? I don't think so. I
Yeah,
think
it didn't.
Yes, it
Let's
did.
go ahead and
No, I don't think I said an amount. I don't
So
think my
if you
motion
have a
said-
house fire,
So-
folks,
so-
in
so
our
my
city,
motion did not
you're gonna get
involve-
held
did
up by
not
our city clerk.
And I just think that if Larry doesn't want to bring it back.
That's fine.
Then we should just put it in there, and I don't care what amount it is, he just doesn't want to do it, that's fine. But this is not a court of law, and we're not going to sit here and argue about it, in my opinion, thank you.
Danny, go ahead.
It's called highway robbery. Your blueprints, are they, I'd like to ask our
You
city
are,
attorney.
no,
City
you're
attorney,
done.
Are blueprints
Denny
required
has
to
the
be
floor.
in a city office?
Kevin, Denny has the
Mr.
floor.
Lanoux, that's city property, that's no longer with
Lanoux,
the city.
I have the floor.
Deposit-
Yeah.
Are they
Hang
required
on.
by statute to be there, is what I asked you.
Look this way, please, Mr. Lanoux. I have the floor. I'd like to help you, Mr. Lanoux. I'll come to your house, pick up the blueprints, I'll go make the copies at my expense, and I'll bring it back for you. Can I help you do that?
Did you understand what I said? I gave it to my insurance agent.
So go pick it up, get a copy.
And I can't help you.
Then you can't help me.
Please call the
Motion on the floor, all those in favor of taking the money, deposit, whatever it was, and putting it into the city's general fund, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed to putting the deposit in the general fund, say no.
No.
No, of course. Moving on, discussion items, city council reports, any updates from the council? Mr. Carr, go ahead, please.
I got a call from a resident who watches the pump house up in Pine Tree, and apparently that pipe that goes under the road is rusted through. I'm not sure how long it's been there, but it's been a long time. So I did talk to him a little bit. The residents were going to try to actually do a lot of it themselves, which would, God bless them. But of course, the city needs to get involved because it's going under one of our roads. And we have a resident that has some property that might be disturbed from that we're concerned they want to put it back in the same condition as it was now, when we dig the pipe up. So I turned that over to Kim. I'm sure there'll be some stuff getting worked on, but honestly, it's just something that happened. I just want everybody to know. So if you hear anything about it, but there's really no action, I don't think the city has to do it. I think it's purely administrative. So.
Kim, question for you on that. Who did we hand that off to? To Ken or to Brad for an engineering look? We don't have any issues with the road.
Ken to make a site visit and make an assessment, and at that point, we'll go to city engineer.
During the staff meeting, you'll discuss that, I'm
No,
sure.
We'll discuss it after he does the site visit and after he assesses the situation.
Then we'll go from there. Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on, staff updates from staff. Who wants to take these?
Brad has B1 and 2.
Okay.
Mayor, members of the council, in the last couple of years, we've done a special roads project with money that I believe we received from the county through the, apparently through the special gas tax appropriations that they gave to the county. County fed it back down to the cities. I think we had somewhere around $60,000 a couple of years ago. Last couple of years, we've used that money to rehabilitate Keats Avenue. And so I guess in 2015, we put together a 10-year CIP for our roadways and our seal coating and our maintenance plan. And then this year, the streets that are part of the 2017 plan are 60th Street Lane and 61st Street, 65th Street east of Keats, 67th Street and Lane east of Keats, and then that last portion of Keats Avenue that we haven't completed. So we have sent out a letter to residents in these areas, asking them if they would participate in using this money as part of a road reconstruction or rehabilitation project, similar to what we did last year with the Keswick Avenue project. Excuse me. And we have invited those residents to a open house. I believe it's April 20th, Thursday, April 20th. Do you remember, it's at Westwood Lutheran Church, I think, Kim?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we've got that scheduled, and hopefully we can get some feedback at that meeting from the residents to see if they would be willing to take on the ownership of getting a petition circulated to help fund a road reconstruction project very similar to the Keswick Avenue project.
Have we had any positive feedback on that, Brad? Have you gotten anyone back to you yet? I'm not sure when the letter went out, but.
No, the letter just went out this
Oh, it
week.
did? Okay.
Yeah, so I think the meeting is in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Okay. And just an update on the special road projects. As Brad had just said, we had done 2/3 of Keats Avenue. That was part of it. And then during our last budget cycle, because we did not get the money from the state, that pittance that they were giving us back, frankly, to be honest, we went ahead and voted to use some of our reserves to fund those special road projects to make sure they were still going forward, and we were not dependent, at least that at this time on those state funds. I have reached out to our state representatives here several times, asking for updates on the state funding that I mentioned earlier, regarding getting some of the gas tax back to us and below that 5,000 population limit, so that we can have a much better chance at getting our roads in shape and getting them up to a little bit better overall condition. We've done a good job on the special roads projects, but I mean, I don't think anyone can really say that they're where we want them to be. We don't have the dollars to make them where we want them to be, but certainly we're going to do everything we can to get them where we want them to be. And I think we'll be in much better shape probably next month to discuss special road projects in much more detail, as we'll have both more detail on the roads and more detail on our funding situation at that point. So that will really kind of be the catch-all discussion on those special road projects. Mr. Carr.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I think it's kind of in flux right now. I did reach out to our road person, Ken, and talk to him, and I talked to Kim a little bit. Also to reach out to all our contractors and getting Brad in the mix too, to reach out to see what's the best bang for our buck. Just because we did 2/3 of Keats doesn't mean we have to finish it this year. If there's other roads or other sections that are better suited to help us save some money. And so we're looking for you guys to do that. I know Steve used to do that a lot when he was the road commissioner, but obviously we switched over, and I'm every year, and I think last year was the same way. I asked about that. And it was determined last year that Keats was probably our best bet, and that's what we ended up doing. I think we did another minor project or two. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think.
Sure.
Where we can save the most money, what makes the most sense. I'm committed to do Keats at some point, but I'm not committed to do it necessarily this year if there's other projects that make more sense. So.
No, and that's a little more detail than I was actually hoping to get
Yep,
into.
I just wanted to let everybody know that I reached out, and hopefully
Yep.
we'll have that report back and some information back from them.
I did speak with the Klein brothers myself as well, and that's good to reach out and talk to those people and to kind of figure out what's going on out there. Let's move on to number 3 here. I don't think we have any other questions on that. The LMC insurance coverage, and I'm not sure who's going to cover this. If it's going to be our attorney or our administrator.
I'll just provide some background. Council member Sederstrom just asked that this be put on the agenda as an update, to kind of let council people know what is covered, and for a new council person, I thought that it would be beneficial to take a look at that. I included the information from the league as far as what they do cover, and Kevin is prepared to answer any questions.
Kevin, do you want to speak first before Larry starts?
Well, certainly, I can say in general, the league's insurance is meant to cover liability issues for the city, and what that generally means is it covers if and when the city might be sued for negligent acts. Generally, the insurance coverage provided by the league does not cover contractual issues for the city, so if there's an issue of contract between the city and another party, those sort of things are generally not covered by insurance. Generally doesn't cover things like special assessment appeals or condemnation cases, things of that nature. You're talking about when the city takes some sort of action and potentially harms someone, and that party brings a legal action against the city in terms of a potential lawsuit for negligence, most typically. Those are the types of things that are the most obvious example of what's covered by the city's insurance through the league.
I actually read that in quite some detail in terms of the League of Minnesota Cities insurance coverage for individual council people. And the phrase that kept coming up was, in the normal course of our duties, we would be covered. And I think it's important to talk about the normal course of our duties, because we do have a brand-new council person on. And I know that Danny had approached me with a couple of questions on that, which, some I could answer and some I couldn't, about that League of Minnesota Cities coverage. And under our normal course of duties, if we're up here voting, we're doing our due diligence, we're doing our research, and then we're voting on these things, we as individual council persons are actually covered by that League of Minnesota Cities insurance. I'm sure Mr. Sandstrom will stop me if I'm incorrect on these points. Where the League of Minnesota Cities insurance coverage stops covering individual council persons is when they are engaged in activities that are outside the normal course of their duties. Okay, so if a council person does things that are outside the normal course of their activities, and they're either censured for those, or they, God forbid, commit a crime or do something else under the city's aegis or under the city's name, they would not be covered under League of Minnesota Cities insurance coverage. And those are the important parts, I think, for all of us to remember, that we want to be doing our due diligence and sticking with our duties and doing what our voters expect us to do. Now, we had some other people with their hands up. Larry, go ahead, please.
Okay, Kevin, I'm going to give you a list and just tell me a yes or no, just a quick deal if we can. Our councilman,
Quiz or,
yeah, you just, it should be fairly easy. Are councilmen covered under the policy?
yes,
Under
Okay,
normal
yes.
circumstances.
How about planning commissioners?
in general, yes,
City clerk?
yes.
The planner?
Likely not, because the planner's an independent contractor.
Okay, so the attorney's an independent contractor, probably not. Contract
And that
labor?
depends on whether or not the city's opted for additional coverage for contractors, which it can.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm
No,
not
I'm
sure if the
just-
city has or not in this particular circumstance.
Be patient, I got a couple more. So contract staff, probably not, or contract labor, are contractors if they do
Larry,
something.
what does this have to do with the coverage?
Just follow me, because I'm wondering, because you,
No, I just had one.
just let me go on. I said,
Yeah, please.
we're gonna have a city cleanup probably in a couple of weeks. Are city volunteers covered?
In general, volunteers are, is my understanding, so long as they're
Okay, so,
approved by the city to do volunteer work for the
okay,
city.
so parades are probably not.
Parades.
City, yeah, we've had parades that we've been told that the city covered it, on occasion before.
Political parades.
Police department and the fire department, are they covered? Probably their own policies.
Well, you don't, again, those are independent contractor relationships you have with Stillwater and the sheriffs, and so they have their own insurance.
Okay.
They're not covered by the city's portion of the league
Okay,
policy.
I've got one more question, if you bear with me. At the last planning commission meeting, following the planning commission, our city clerk, our city administrator, and 4 members of the planning commission had an open meeting violation. I'll just give you a picture of it over here if you'd like. So would they be covered in an open meeting violation? That's not in their due diligence. So at this time, because our clerk does know better, our city administrator and our city planner, I would ask that they simply resign their duties, because they did participate in a open meeting violation, and we will send that into the League of Minnesota Cities, and then we'll determine if they're covered.
It's a serious charge, and
Because-
unfortunately, you have no evidence. So,
Well,
Mr. Carr, you're up, go ahead.
Have you read the,
Mr. Lanoux, you're all
have
done.
you read the city policy? Because this is the League of Minnesota
Mr.
Cities.
Lanoux,
Did you,
you're done.
did you review the policy?
Ms. Lanoux,
done.
I asked you this
You're
once,
done, sir.
once before, and I'm gonna ask you again. If you do not wanna come to these meetings and do the work that the citizens voted you in for and work with us, then stay home. Because it was a very nice meeting last
Mr.
month.
Mayor,
It was
when our
very
city
short.
clerk and
It was
planner
very short. We got
have a
some work
open
done,
meeting
and it's not
violation
an open.
following a planning
It's
commission
really
meeting.
hilarious, speaking that you were having an open
Okay,
meeting law
that's all right.
violation
I'm first,
with
and then
your,
you.
with your little
Hang on.
computer up here, and that was an open meeting violation, but you didn't
I don't think
resign.
it is
Maybe you
an
should
open meeting
resign, okay.
violation. It is recording a public
Larry,
hearing.
let me ask you a question.
You say
How
that.
could you know that was an open meeting violation? Just how could you know that? Because you have a picture?
Yes, I
4
do.
people were in a building together.
And I'll,
Right after the
Yep,
meeting.
And you
following
have an
a
open meeting
meeting, it
violation.
was not
due
done,
respect,
and they were
please, why are we
discussing
arguing about
city-
this?
We're not.
So-
We're moving on.
So-
Well done. It doesn't cover
We'll just find out
individual
if they're
council
covered.
members. Who would like to read the community calendar? Oh, please, go ahead.
I'd like to read this.
Go ahead.
Did you
Please.
review the city
Larry,
policy?
you're done. Larry,
You reviewed our city policy.
Larry, you got your point. Oh, cross, you're done.
I have one more.
Please, go ahead. Oh,
I
let
have
Loren.
one more staff update. I will note that the incident, Councilmember Lanoux was talking about is right after the planning commission meeting, and not everyone was out at the building, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how long we have to get out of here.
I'm not sure if
They
Larry,
actually
if
were all
Larry
out
has
of the,
a.
they were all out of the business except for the quorum that was here. All the citizens were gone.
Enough.
My last update is the performance reviews were conducted in March. 3 of the council members did participate in that and turn their forms in. Overall, staff is doing a very good job based on what you submitted. The one thing to kind of work on, I guess for all of us, is communication, which is difficult. We try and do this in the staff reports, but as you can see, or the staff updates, sometimes we just don't even want to. We want to get out of here. But,
Yeah.
We
I
will
know.
try and work on some better communication with
Lauren, did you have something to input, something positive,
Yes,
hopefully?
I wanted to ask a question. I was wondering if the next meeting in May, that I tried to discuss at least 3 times and haven't been allowed to participate, so hopefully next meeting you will recognize me and allow me to speak. I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, let's hope that you have some positive points, and I actually know that you raised your hand. That would be fantastic, Lauren. We'd like to have your input. If you're a little more reasonable than Larry here, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I'm always reasonable. When
Well,
have I ever
normally
been out-
you are until you start yelling at people at
When do I
meetings and
yell
that
at
type of
people?
thing.
I don't think so.
no.
I raised my hand 3 times and was not recognized. I would just like to be, I would just like recognition and allowed to participate in the meeting. That's all I'm asking.
We're very sorry that we missed your participation, Lauren. We will endeavor not to do that in the future. Please raise your voice next time so that we hear you.
He did.
If you would. Apparently I didn't hear you one of those times, so if you could just go ahead and raise your voice. Let's go ahead and move forward into the community calendar. Mr. Carr, would you like to read that for us?
Sure.
Thanks.
Montemita Public Schools Board Meeting Thursday, April 13th and 27th, Montemita District Education Center, 7 o'clock. Stillwater Public Schools Board Meeting Thursday, April 13th, Stillwater City Hall at 7 p.m. City of Grant Cleanup Day, Saturday, April 22nd, 2017, Town Hall, 9 a.m. to noon. Bring your stuff. Washington County Commissioners Meeting Tuesday, Government Center, 9 a.m. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Larry, let's
You-
get a copy of that.